Hey, Anusha, thank you for coming in. You have such a marvelous background from your early education in India, where you self-taught yourself programming, to your undergraduate and master's studies, to your work with Barclays and Citibank and leading global financial services and really doing cutting edge AI machine learning, and where you've been able to compress things down in phenomenal ways. It's really optimization to the nth degree. Women in Tech Global Awards. I mean, Forbes Technology Council. You have senior member status in IEEE. You're chair of the IEEE Women's in Engineering Philadelphia section. You are also the board of ACM Practitioner board, and definitely embedded governance and financial structures, ethical AI. So just a really marvelous career. And I notice you also are an MVP, Microsoft's MVP. Do you still hold that, or?
I do. I do still hold that, Stephen. Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, so really just a tremendous background. So thank you for coming in and sharing your experiences with our audience.
First of all, thank you, Stephen, for inviting me. It's definitely a privilege to be part of this conversation, I would say today. Just like how you introduced, I'm Anusha. I have spent more than 15 years working in software engineering, automation, large-scale technology platforms. Over these years, I have had the opportunity to work on everything from like building enterprise systems to driving automation initiatives. And more of recently, like we are into like building responsible AI solutions to solve the real world problems that we are facing right now. And it's more of like what my journey motivates and makes my journey unique is that I didn't just grow up surrounded by technology all the time. So definitely I brought up from the rural background where opportunities and exposure to technology are like limited. So it's just like it was not something that naturally be part of my life cycle, kind of, so my everyday life. It was something I gradually started building some curiosity to build something or to learn something. So that made me get into this career by adapting something new, by learning something new as a step-by-step process, just like how majority of us do. So it's like I'm trying to progress through my career, and it's not like I have reached the entire mountain cliff, but I would realize that every challenge teaches this adaptability. Every failure, every challenge teaches this kind of flexibility and adaptability, and also mainly the resilience that I believe in right now. What started as career eventually became a passion, for continuous learning purpose.
So, one of the first questions I always ask are, what are the inflection points in your life that made this wonderful career that you have? And I think you sort of touched on it in a response to the introduction, but I'm going to formally ask you again, then maybe three. What are the three inflection points? And it could have been when you're 3 or 5 years old. If, for example, you taught yourself programming at an early age. It could be a mentor within the family or outside the family. It could have been a mentor in school. It could have been challenges that happened in your life and it caused you to pursue, or you had such great learnings, things like that. So what would you say are the three inflection points that really guided you to this really, really successful career you have today?
That's, I would say like that's a great question, but when I look back, I definitely came from a normal conventional family. So my major inflection points definitely that shaped me who I am today. It's more of like how I was brought up and my parents who never gave up on uh, giving education as the first right to kids, so that's what first thing. And definitely when you are part of a family, so and if you have a older siblings, definitely you will learn from them for sure. And yeah, definitely the sibling influence is with there thinking that, okay, they are going in certain paths and where should I be probably ending up, And the first of the part is like, I didn't realize that it was shaping me internally, but this kind of resources, like my parents, they were not educated. So it's like more of learning from siblings, learning from school, learning from listening to real life stories of people who already did achieve something in their career, as part of some storytelling process or listening to some news. When we get to know about people who achieved something, or what surprises me is like how fruitfully that they are bringing up their career itself. So definitely that motivates me as well, like as that child, like with very less understanding or not broader exposure. So whatever that point that I understood was like, I think I need to start learning, understanding what I'm learning, then try to implement that. Like it's more of real time. If I do it, then I will get to know like, okay, what could be the result of it, how it is going to help me, and how it is going to shape me out, or lean me out to the further opportunity. So I would say the inflection points are more of pursuing higher education, entering into the technology field. It's more of like to understand how consistently I'm trying to do the things. It's not like I have done these things until certain point of time and I have quit on things, but doesn't help me. So it's more of consistency in learning big or small things. It's more of consistency for sure. And curiosity, like asking more questions. Do ask questions, then you get answers, then you get more questions. So it's more of like that. In my early career, it's more of curiosity, asking things which I'm excited about. And it's even now when people are explaining so many new things in the world, definitely it creates a lot of curiosity, and it never ends. I think curiosity in a human being should not end to learn something new. So that's what help us keep moving, so that I believe in.
So, what I'm hearing is that you grew up in a very nurturing family who encouraged your curiosity and things like that. But you also had to have sort of self-actualization and manifesting that curiosity and doing well at school, being curious about the sciences. You did teach yourself programming at an early age, which sparked your interest in computing science. So that's having your own agency, your own self-actualization of that curiosity. And, I could see then that leading to completing your undergraduate degree in engineering in India, which really laid a foundation, software development algorithms. And then you pursued graduate studies in the US, earning a master's degree in computational science from Texas A&M University. And this advanced education really strengthened your expertise in high performance computing and data science. Okay, so that curiosity, like you said, executing, always reaching out and trying things, even things that were new to you, and really developing a mastery. In that period then from the 1990s up to 2014, where you completed your degree and master's in computational science from Texas A&M University. Did I capture really the essence of your first formative years?
I would say like it's more of like the primary schooling, and like when we reach to we have different like grades and different kind of education system in India. It's initially when I used to pursue. So at the time, like we definitely were trying to learn something from the books more than in the practical world that was being taught to us. It's not like a more of real time during those days. Now there are so many resources. Everything is like formatted, and everything is followed a common generic structure. And I would say like those days, trying to get grip of things and uh, getting interested into technology, leaning towards it. Definitely, it's not that easy transition for sure. Um, a person being consistent on something and learning and working on something, it impacts and influences a lot of factors. So I would say the big part of it, I would describe it as foundation rather than just the formative years. Those years were less about mastering any technology or about developing the mindset. So those years helped me in few factors building in my mindset, like resilience, adaptability, those are the things I would say, like they made me grow up when I was set into the bachelor's of technology. When I pursued higher education, eventually completed my master's degree in Texas A&M, the technology knowledge was certainly important, but the bigger lesson was learning how to approach unfamiliar problems, like by keeping my curious or exciting mindset to learn something new as it is, because the real world problems are something a bit different from the book knowledge. They are a bit examples, but not real problems. How to resolve them. They're just a practical algorithmic type of things. Like defining characteristic of that period wasn't just an expertise. So it was just like, I would say, persistence, and all those are like new environments for me, and new problems, and every time this kind of new opportunity has taught me how I have to keep moving forward, even though I face so many obstacles as part of the journey. But it definitely indeed taught me like how I can keep moving forward, and how I can connect with people. This part I learned here. Like when I came for masters to USA, I learned about networking, how networking plays key role in learning things. Uh, Even for fresh graduates or anybody, I think that is more essential to connect with industry leaders, to learn something real when they are still pursuing something. Then they would be able to connect the bridging the gap between those two things would definitely create the foundation phase for this kind of professional journey. So definitely, I would say that. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Really, what you're saying is, there's book learning, and then there's actually learning on the job, solving problems, being resilient, agile, combinatorial in your thinking to think of new ways of doing things or solving challenges, which are different than book learning. So you have to have that resilience and perseverance and optimism, and you have to work really, really hard. So you're defining those character aspects as key parts of your journey. And I could see this element of being, always questioning and observing what's around you, and always, as I mentioned, thinking in a combinatorial way, combining different ideas into novel solutions and things like that, seeing a challenge and overcoming those challenges. And then you mentioned this aspect of you're probably running experiments, trying different, associating with different communities, but running and piloting different ideas, and then on a continuing basis. And then throughout all of this, you're also defining the importance of relationships, and that's the interpersonal side and how important that is. So that's a model of a behavior, kind of the mechanisms for success. And I can see part of that is probably you're constantly reading as well, keeping up with some of the latest advances. And so that I can see it's not just the pure technical, but there's many of these other elements: the question, observing, experimenting, associate, combinatorial thinking, the networking, building relationships, being resilient, agile, being the ability to have the continual optimism no matter what the challenges are, thinking in a stepwise refinement way. In other words, you have a big problem, but breaking up into micro problems so you can solve to ultimately solve the bigger problem. And then also keeping up with all of the kind of the new frontiers that are being developed so you can address them in a concrete way. So you're developing all of this, and as you indicated, you realize the importance of relationships, which are a key component of working and succeeding. So then you launch your career in financial technologies, and you innovating with software engineering roles at Barclays and Citibank, where you worked on building secure and scalable trading systems and enterprise cloud applications. And this is, again, really breaking new kinds of frontiers in your thinking. And your early roles honed your skills in high-frequency trading systems and automation architecture, which then led you to large-scale modernization initiatives and system integrations in the fintech area. Can you talk about some of the expertise to projects at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office?
Oh, yeah, sure. So that was my very first opportunity, I would say, in USA. So I joined as a associate developer over there, and that was one of those opportunities. As a fresh graduate, I came out and I did this. But yeah, that very first day, I definitely didn't know like how huge the company plays a role in real world. But later onwards, then I get to know like, okay, definitely indeed, whatever the corporations or whoever establishing their own trademarks, copyrights, everything runs through this kind of offices, like how the processing goes through. So I was proud to work on such application because that is one sort of application where a workflow entirely designed for reviewing the whole trademark process and patents process and how we approach on providing the review process, approval process, how lawyers integrate with us, like everything, because there are many people can claim to be patent on something and more than one person can claim to be a patent holder. So people do appeal on things and how the appeals work. There are so many things that goes on to the process, and I was like so curious and very fascinated to learn about the whole application, And yeah, I was taken as part of this application where I was working on modernization of that application, to be frank. There was a legacy part of it, and I was taken for the modernization part of it. So we modernized that application with new search engines and a new process of doing it, like reducing, like we wanted to reduce the time that was taken for the review process and all. But one of the interesting experiences in that application is more of like how that trademarks get published through this Trademark Official Gazette. So that application is called Trademark Official Gazette, which serves as a public record. Even anybody can open that and see like what kind of patents and trademarks are present and which are granted, But we can see like how the potential challenge applications, before even registration goes through. So that is definitely a key part of the trademark lifecycle for the USPTO. From the technology perspective, like I said, I worked on modernizing that, improving the components of the platform by changing the search engine. We used a Solar search engine during the time frame, and we also supported the workflow automation and data processing, like search capabilities and publication-related activities. But what fascinated is more of like I mentioned, technology, law, and public service, how the intersection is happening at that one point. They weren't just simply building software, but like helping improve the whole part of that system and making it more helpful to the government as well, like one lesson for sure, integrating multiple key factors, key functions of the body, which has the greatest impact that can be operated behind the scenes and enables critical, institutions to function more effectively. And just like, suppose if I can represent like Forbes, like, okay, Forbes can do these kind of thought leadership, and it allows industry leaders to publish their articles. But if there is another person coming, like they are also representing Forbes, but they're changing their just a little bit in the domain name and saying that they are also acting something like Forbes, but they are not actually the Forbes, So that's how the patents and trademarks work. Like the legitimacy of the patent means one's copyright, one's right to hold that, the hard work behind the entire establishment of that system, So that's for sure. Yeah. That we have seen and made the systems work more reliable and made it feasible for all the users. We helped. I feel like, yeah, I'm proud to be part of that system. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really fascinating, really broadening your experience and applying different kinds of technology, including AI, machine learning to complex regulatory systems, financial systems. I really now, within the global financial services industry itself, really a top leader as, working with advanced cloud native engineering strategies, resilient architecture design, and AI-driven architecture for institutional different kind of financial applications, and designing scalable high-performance system global markets and focusing on automation and algorithmic resilience and different kinds of financial operations. Can you talk about some of the lessons that you want to share from your current work right now, and particularly in cutting-edge AI machine learning solutions?
There is lots going on in the market, but one of the biggest lessons I would say is like definitely the hardest part, I would say, in order to trust and adopt anything new into the existing systems. Legacy systems are built in such a way that if something works, something breaks. That's how the systems are. It's in order to make something work for new, it has to go through more of setback and fallback processes. Failures definitely teach us something stable process. Unless we don't see the failures, like we don't know what kind of problems can occur going forward. That's what. So over the last several years, I have had opportunities work on this banking solutions, like retail banking, just like I have to say, like Barclays that I have worked on, and Citibank. Those are like more of retail banking and consumer banking that I worked on, and more of reliability and performance. Where I have worked on such kind of applications, it's more of a card generation, like it's more of application, like when a customer comes into picture, he applies for it just like any other user, from that process until the card gets generated. So that whole process is like more of getting through the authenticity of the person, from which country they are from. So because we also have some Fed rules that we follow for the banking facilities. So we have to flag the things, certain things, if something is being from so and so country, something is from so and so if some persons is having some sort of indicators for the credit scores or anything. So everything, we have some rules that we have derived for banking sectors. So yes, if in order to integrate something new like AI-based solutions, we have to feed real customer data, like in order to make it work. But we can't give that initial stages. We have to use the sample data sets, make sure that low impacting data sets in order to try it out and work it out. So that's what I would say, like that feeding with the low impacted data sets and making a solution work, then imagining what kind of processes or what kind of problems would come out when we are trying with a real-time data set, and what kind of fraudulency will happen. Because we know how much our technology is evolving, the same way fraudulent transactions, the way the fraudulent type of attacks are happening is also way faster. Like we are moving a day ahead, they're moving weeks ahead, kind of, how much ever we are evolving, they are also evolving. So that much speed that we have to maintain in order to give a legit solution to customers, in order to keep the trust in us and be customers to the bank, for the longer period. So that's the one lesson for where I would say, like, we definitely made it happen, like feeding the sets. But we initially faced attacks like phishing attacks and fraudulent attacks, making it impersonated, impersonations are one thing. And there are different type of fraudulent, because we allow various type of applications for customers. One is through mails, one is through phone, one is through kiosk, one is through directly when a person is purchasing Apple product in Apple Store. So there is an instant application that also we provide. So there are various type of banking ways that we do, like when we are providing some solutions. So these many kind of solutions are there, and those many kind of spam emails that making customers believe that, yes, you please apply this one, we are going to give this, but you need to pay this money orders, kind of. So there were so many phishing attacks, how they will come and believe us that, okay, this is us. So we used to get so many consumer complaints, initial stages, like these are the things that we are getting, believed that you are the ones that who sent us. And we applied for it, kind of, that's how things are coming. But then later onwards, banks started giving some clear notifications saying that, some sort of advertisements making them educated about phishing attacks and all. So do not believe in these things in a direct way. So there is the legit domains. We only represent these. So if we are coming through that only, please try to apply, and they do not follow every process. So we only do this kind of authentication process, like generating OTPs to ensure that you are the person applying. And getting trust and do not lose the confidence in the customers was the one thing when we are trying to adapt some new automated processes. So that I wanted to bring that as one of the challenge, not to lose the customers, because we had so much drop during COVID, how when the COVID hit, we lost so many customers because at the time I was working for Barclays, and we knew that Barclays does so many airline businesses. We serve so many businesses, but we definitely see some drops compared to how active before COVID was. It's not like major drop, but yeah, we definitely comparatively we saw that because the usage was down. Airplanes were not going anywhere. So it was no airplane passage through because we have so many airplane customers during that time frame, even now as well. But yeah, I'm not currently working there, but yeah, I'm just saying that. But yeah, it's more of like customers has to apply. If they don't apply, how we are going to build the customers? So like that, volume of the customer base will be built based on the usage. So if the usage is completely went down during COVID time, that is where when we brought up this integrated solutions about digital solutions, everything digitalized. So that time the modernization of the applications came into existence for that time frame. And we worked on migrating to new bureaus, like what do we say? The credit scoring calculating bureaus. So which made it more efficient way. We wanted to bring it to the customers in a more realistic way, so that they can believe us that we can do something nice for them and something beneficial to them. And that's what we started, and we were able to prove that. We established a digitalized and modernized solution during that time frame. And yes, we got back our customer base during that time frame after that. Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable, all of this work that you've done and all the lessons you learn, definitely spearheading cutting edge technical and AI machine learning solutions, significantly enhancing, financial infrastructure. And you also developed during this time revolutionary automation frameworks that would cut model training and deployment time from months to literally, a couple of weeks, accelerating AI adoption, really saving thousands of engineering hours. You also optimize trading systems to reduce latency, let's say 70% or more, greatly improving transaction speeds and system performance. So these are really a lot of lessons about innovation, operational resilience, and efficiency of next generation financial platforms. So that's a lot of expertise you've been and continuing to gain, and also in your leadership roles as well. So what's your reaction now to what's happening in the AI machine learning space, particularly with generative AI? I mean, Microsoft has their AI Foundry. You're a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. So you'll be familiar with their Microsoft Foundry, which is sort of like this collection of all the capabilities with AI, and they've given it this name, Foundry. Can you talk about that? And they just completed their Build conference this week. So uh, can you give us some insights of what's happening in the Microsoft space? Because you are a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional.
See, being definitely it's incredible. First, I wanted to answer to being in this era of transitioning period. It's definitely an incredible and exciting time to be in this changing technology world. But I have seen major technology shifts about the cloud computing, mobile computing, big data, distributed systems, all these things I came across. But now generative AI feels different because it's making advanced capabilities accessible to more broader audience. It's more of test and apply. You every day you're seeing something new because and it's more of exciting to people to try out something new. It's not necessarily the models themselves, but also the innovation. So today, even a student, like a high schooler, researcher or a professor or entrepreneur, they are able to leverage capabilities just by using the basic models that are provided to subscription-based models, or there are free-based models that are limiting the usage. But yeah, models are making the customer available. That's at a significant cost. At the same time, I think we are moving beyond the phase of simply being fascinated by just AI, saying AI. We already entered into the phase where, just like you are mentioning, organizations are asking like typical real world questions. Now the question is not about just model, or just not about how well the output was given, but how much it is governed. Whether the application was clearly governed through AI, or how do we trust it? Is the governance is not because governance feature is not entirely AI integrated yet. If you believe it or not, how much ever a person or the entire organization complete an application through a integrated and release and deploy it into the production, but it has to apply through, if it has to approve that it entirely went through the AI cycle, it also has to go through the governance cycle using AI. So if it is not, then governance can clearly abstract that application that was production ready and say that it is not governance ready. So yeah, whatever the effort and time, everything that was kept into it, it clearly can be given a mark over there. So that's what, like, it has to be responsibly built when there are some governance rules that it didn't pass through. That is one thing. And how much I believe is like next wave, just like you're mentioning about the new thing. It's more of like even being the MVP or not, as an industry leader, I would say this. A person has to go through the models, how they are implementing, how they can successfully combine with specific domains of the corporations, rather than how they're working. Are they working just like human judgment, like whether how the human emotion-based or sentimental analysis that we would say, So are they working according to that? How strong that AI models can prove that they are working according to the human judgment? Even now, the models are confidently not saying that they are completely human judgment based, because that's still the judgment lies in a part of it. So one area I find particularly interesting in this evolution is like, it's more of, I would say, like, I find AI right now, according to my learning and my adaptability, I would say it is like a collaborative effort. It's not like complete, everybody is not relying on AI. Definitely human interaction should be there. It's like a collaborative tool, I have to say. So because I'm not completely into the entire world of AI, I'm not into entirely learning the entire tool stack. because I'm also I'm also a normal human. So my mindset and my adaptability would be until an extent. I'm not like entirely learning everything because my brain has a limitation. So I would adapt to some, and I would not be able to understand some things. So it's clear. The knowledge discovery has limitation, and adaptability also has a limitation. But definitely this would create an opportunity, this entire every conference. If you see, since last year, there are so many conferences conducted by various corporations. NVIDIA happened initial of this year, like starting of this year. It's more of inference based. And also how the space, like how the storage is being used. So there are many things that are coming through, like how the space is going to be optimized. Now there are news that are about space-based storages, so it's still in talks, not into reality, but entirely like there are so many things that are coming into picture. But yeah, see, physical data centers, physical storages that went in, cloud storages that went in. But now space-based optimizations, utilizations are coming and bringing some talks into the picture. So I would say like every small or big topic here is changing the nature of work. It's not the importance of our creativity, but it's about how meaningfully that we can question, and we can able to think critically and solve complex problems, collaborative effort with AI tools. That's why we are training the models, just like how we train the brains, like how people say like human brains needs to be trained in a proper manner in order to work efficiently. So how much ever, suppose if I'm low on today, suppose later today, if I go down with my mindset and everything, should I be down like that? No, right? I should train my brain saying that I can do this. I will be good. I can do this. I can do this for the next few days. Then I'll be good. I'll take good rest. Then I'll again be back on. So I'll keep on training my brain, not of giving up. So it's like more of experimenting. So do experiment, train the models, how much ever questions, how much ever data, how much ever knowledge base that we are going to feed into it, that much ever benefit that we are going to get it from those. So
Uh, so because the build just was this week, are there any things that you want to spotlight from build, or do you think it's a little bit too early yet? Again, because I monitor so I'm not speaking on behalf of Microsoft, but I'm just monitoring the influencer space and what's come out of build, and influencers are saying things like there's this frontier or front fine tuning. There's this idea of reinforcement learning environment. So you have over 11,000 different models that are part of the AI Foundry. Microsoft has given you, and they have their own AI capability, Microsoft AI, trained on their own chip infrastructure as well now, and they have the ability to um, provide an AI model, and then you can further tune it. So this is beyond RAG, right? It's much, much more um, uh, granular in that you can do some additional fine tuning and creates your own mode because it's based on your data. So it becomes really focused on your data, which provides a moat from others, and really tailored to your expertise, something like 10 times the efficiency with almost the latest model capability, but 10 times the efficiency. This idea of taking, again, I'm just reporting from what I see from the influencers commenting, taking the open cloud technologies, the automation technologies, taking it into the Microsoft ecosystem and then putting wrappers around it so that you don't just have a co-pilot, but now you have an autopilot.
yeah.
Do you have any comments and more that maybe you want to comment on the Build conference? Because it is so current, because it just happened, and that's their major developer conference, right?
Yes, but I would say it is definitely a bit early for me because I haven't, technically speaking, I went through a bit of it, but not the entirely. But definitely, like you have explored various influencer sites to understand the insights of it. But whatever I have gone through, it's more of like, it's definitely, I would definitely believe in this, and I would definitely say the next frontier, it's not just bigger models. It's more of like how useful models they can be, and they can be the reason within specific business context, how they can interpret the enterprise systems, how the domain logic can be interpreted, how continuously they're maintaining this governance and trust. I'm also watching this evolution of AI in various ways, like when we are talking about organizations with AI assistants, just like you are mentioning about Claude bots, and people are using like instead of regular agents, they're using the autopilots, like instead of co-pilots. So everything has also their own limitations too. If you monitor and observe, everything has a token optimization, and a token capacity is also there. So how many tokens that it can accept, and how efficiently that will return the results, how, because not every model is working in the same way. Okay, so coming to that, from the conference part you are talking, but I'm talking in generic way because it's more of, uh, I would say I wanted to uh, concentrate more on how they can be responsibly understandable when we are trying to transform one thing to another. Each task has to be with clear security and governed. So human oversight can be more important, but yeah, I would say like inference nowadays plays major role. Even from the developer conference, you would see inference definitely plays major role. So the key pointers will come through, even from NVIDIA that came across in the same way. But yeah, definitely trying out first, then talking about it would make it more efficient than just reading some headlines. For me, I'm talking from my perspective. So I can't just read some basic insights and understand and provide my thought process on it. So I definitely wanted to go through on that for sure.
You see, so now kind of switching outside of Microsoft, the Microsoft, they have Microsoft Foundries, so the audience can take a look at really this kind of hub for everything to do with AI and all sorts of tooling. There's education content there as well. There's governances, and you mentioned the importance of governance and the ethical use of AI. All of that tooling and capability and workflow is part of the AI Foundry or the Microsoft Foundry capability, and the audience could just explore because it's all compiled or aggregated into just one center where you can pretty well do everything that's required. Um, so now, just sort of adjacent to that, you see Dario Modi, you see Anthropic now heading towards, like, let's say, $1 trillion uh, valuation or an IPO. I think there's some indication they filed already, at least privately, anyways. And was just a few years ago there was about 550 million valuation. So I encourage the audience to research them themselves. I think they raised something like over 124 million, and now it's $1 trillion. And so if you invested in that first round, it's like 1,800 times increase. So it's just quite remarkable. But Dario's quite provocative because he's saying that the capability is going to be such that an individual can run a unicorn company, $1 billion company, with AI, agentic AI, and this more autonomous capability. And earlier, just a few weeks ago, they talked about their AI agents having this dream capability, and that is in idle times they can go to what they've done before and look for patterns. So they can basically do sort of reinforced self-improvement. So recursive self-improvement, which is this holy grail in essence, right? It's like a target. If you can do recursive self-improvement, that's a big step. And this dream capability seems like it's heading towards that. Then they announced this multi-agent orchestration, including sub-agent orchestration and managing them through outcomes. So this is, but Microsoft will have this capability as well. So really, all of the big hyperscalers have this capability. So I'd like your views on that because we're running towards the end of our interview, and that is these are really elements of AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence. And if you were to go back 10 years and look at where we are today, 10 years ago, you would have said that's AGI. And now we don't call it AGI anymore because it's a spectrum and we're just getting used to this increased capability. And I interviewed Jeff Hinton, and Jeff Hinton admitted that, 10 years ago, he would have thought the capabilities we have now. And again, I encourage you to look at my interview with Jeff Hinton. So I'm not speaking on behalf of him, but my view of my interview with him was 10 years ago, he would have said this would not have been possible in this short time frame. So what are your views on this? Do you sort of support this idea that these things are becoming so automated that they can really manage a lot of things for us? And this idea of Microsoft and autopilot, not just the co-pilot, so it just goes and does all sorts of things for you. Do you think that is coalescing and that capability is even going to get further? And really we are in some kind of AGI already, perhaps?
I kind of went into this kind of discussion earlier, but I would definitely say it's a fascinating discussion for sure. Like you said, we are certainly witnessing capabilities today, just like how you sounded about science fiction, just like few years ago. But when we hear predictions about a single individual building $1 billion company with AI, so it's more of like do not think about valuation perspective. It's more of like whatever more interesting is like how the underlying shift has leverage about it, like how the leverage happened. And historically, scaling such an organization require large teams, technically. Do you believe that, right? So even infrastructure we need, right? And substantially, it's more of operational diligence we need, how much ever we have tools and stacks, operational diligence must be there. If it is lack, then who will take the responsibility of some failure, isn't it? So now if something fails, that's for sure. Operational diligence will fail, right? So now in this aspect of building this part, A is changing for sure, but I would say like my understanding about that equation, it amplifies that small set of individuals or the teams that are trying to accomplish, because this is that kind of an important discussion between, generating output or creating a value, like how much ever substantial value that you have mentioned. I'm talking in that perspective. So building such successful company, would definitely require so much of vision for sure, and trust, the leadership and the trust that comes from all those factors, major factors, because believing in that and even the customer understanding has to play a major role, key role, I would say. It's not just like building, just like it doesn't go just like without any customer belief, So that has the potential to unlock this kind of innovation. But the idea of self-improving systems is also that much interesting for me, because as AI systems become more capable of learning from human interactions, how much ever we interact, that much it gets enhanced, Suppose in a small real-time example, basic example, you give a prompt to any GPT model or anything, okay? When you give initially, it gives a basic answer based on how you give. When you keep improving your prompt, it gives more enhanced solution, isn't it? So based on that basic example only, I'm just talking about it. It's very normal, So that much improvisation will come from this kind of changing condition. That means human interactions has to be completely there. So this my understanding is more of like improving the performance, we definitely see the productivity, and we definitely see the lot of problem solving thing in this. But what my understanding is, like, the more autonomous the systems become, the transparency, the human oversight will also play the major role for those things, because they don't have any interactions, they don't have any human judgment, they don't have any sort of resources to go over the efficiency to judge on, So according to my experience, I'm trying to understand on those things about personally, in the more of like AI replacing the entire human judgment, and more of increasing the human potential, I would say. So definitely impactful outcomes will likely come from the combination of human creativity, because we are the human brains. We created the AI, not like AI created us, right? So it's artificial intelligence is always like mimicking the human brains. That's how it has to build on. So I would say the ethical judgment would definitely play a major role, even the AI systems completely working together. I definitely wanted to learn how this entire company is working with ethical judgment and all, because that's definitely a learning curve for me. I definitely wanted to learn that part. I'm saying that, yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're in our final piece of our interview, and so I'm going to focus now on your industry contributions and recognitions. For example, you were nominated for a Women in Tech Global Awards in 2023. You're a member of the Forbes Technology Council, where you're sharing thought leadership on topics like AI, fintech, innovation, and sustainable tech. You've served on expert panels, you're part of hackathons, you judge sessions, chair, in fact, hackathons and research forums on next generation talent. You're also a senior member status in IEEE, in fact, appointed co-chair of the IEEE Women in Engineering Philadelphia section. We earlier mentioned you received the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional award. It's an annual award that tops in the world for your contributions to the software development community. And you're also on the ACM Practitioner Board, and which is ACM is number one in computing science. It's the world's largest computing educational professional organization with the top conferences, journals, and what they call special interest groups, which are sub-organizations. So it's really it is the prominent organization, particularly in the computer science and computer science aligned areas. And you're on the practitioner board as well, which is the top board serving the translational work of the research into actual practice, which is where you're seated, right? Let's apply all of this marvelous work that's being done. You're a frequent keynote speaker at international tech conferences, and particularly on sharing insights on AI governance, financial infrastructure, ethical AI. And you brought that up throughout our interview, this ethical human aspect. We got to make sure that there's this alignment as well. Okay, so can you make some comments about your IEEE work first, and then we'll end with your comments about the practitioner board work. So first about your IEEE work.
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, I'm a senior member, and also earlier I was co-chair, but now I'm actively working as a chair for V Philadelphia section. So I actively, we do a lot of STEM activities and STEM outreach programs in this area, and also we try to collaborate with different regions in order to conduct various activities to help young professionals, and also like high schoolers who are learning about technology and all. And we do provide like a speaker series, like we do conduct a speaker series on the various technology aspects that could benefit various broader audience, So that we are actively engaging and participating and doing it. And I'm playing the key role on doing the V speaker series as well. We are inviting a lot of industry leaders to come into picture and give their insights about things. But also like we are interacting with various communities to collaborate effectively to conduct some sort of events. So we can let people know that how IEEE are also helpful in their growth, career growth, So that's how like we also conduct various sessions in this region because I belong to this region, Philadelphia region. So we conducted various workshops with professionals so they can network and they can just bring out valuable aspects that could help the organization and also that could help the broader audience. And yes, it's just not like a single thing that came on a day. It's gradually progressed, So when I definitely look at those experiences collectively, I don't see them primarily as recognitions. I see them as opportunities to learn and contribute to this tech world, How much ever I learned from my professional background, this is out of my work when I have to, this is kind of extra efforts that we put towards like in a volunteering part that I would say, putting extra hours towards this part, So it's not just like we have realized these things doesn't happen just in isolation, So just like organizations like IEEE, ACM, how professional councils, research communities, and these create those opportunities and mediums for the professionals to interact and bring various thought leadership into existence. Just like, I can see myself before and after the phase, I can see myself a lot of a difference in my growth and in my career-oriented aspect before joining the organization and after joining the organizations, like what I brought to them, what they made me grow, So there is definitely responsibility lies in. It's not just like being part of some organization just doesn't do anything. Effort, like putting some effort, playing some responsibility towards the task would definitely comes with experience. So as we professionals progress in careers, we also benefit from the guidance, mentorship, I'm also a mentor on different mediums. So people do conduct sessions and like ADP, So I'm an active mentor over there. People do book sessions one-on-one and just try to clarify various sort of individuals in various aspects, like we've mentioned, like what we can guide on them, So that kind of mentorships, those are helpful because I came from such background where I didn't get such kind of initial mentorships and proper guidance. Maybe if I would have got more, I would have been shaped myself in different way, a bit more enhanced way, I would say. At some point, like we get the opportunity to pay that forward. That's what I'm trying to do. Now it's my turn, which I didn't get. I wanted to give something out of what I experienced, So whether it's mentoring students, judging competitions, it's not like I'm only giving something. They are also giving me something, like some knowledge, something which I didn't know at the time. So even something new that they are building. When we go to judge hackathons, they build something new out of social responsibility. There are so many themes that institutions maintain. Just like last year, I went to Harvard, and it was like one of that institutions, like they have conducted so many themes, and I was mesmerized, like how kids are, like how the young professionals are trying to build apps that are responsible and useful for the broader audience, like that's definitely going to helpful for the government if something like they came live, So it was like all are like startup ready concepts. Those are like kind of, so we get to judge that kind of concepts. So when we get to enjoy this kind of intersection, right? So we definitely feel responsible, So it's not like people blindly believe in us and giving that opportunities. So I would definitely play that role as responsible person, and involving this in these spaces allow me to continuously learn, just like I have mentioned. So while hopefully helping others to learn as well parallelly. So some of the most things are rewarding too. It's not titles or awards for sure. It's about recognition, and it's about giving that opportunity to be part of it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, so you talked about some of your activities also with the IEEE, and Marianne Rendell is the current CEO and president globally of IEEE, and then they have these sub-organizations and councils, and which specialize in different areas. Now we also have the ACM, and you're on the practitioner board, which is responsible for nearly 50% of the membership globally, which is the ones that are putting all of this capability into practice. So that's what they call it, the practitioner board. And just for the audience, the ACM is the world's largest computing science, computing educational professional organization, something like 37 special interest groups, which are really organizations unto themselves, like SIGGRAPH, which I would say is number one in the graphics space, something like 170 major conferences, which they're part of. Some of them are joint conferences with IEEE. But again, big venues to share and publish and things like that. There's the whole publishing side of ACM, the largest digital library of its kind, which has gone open access, which means people can openly access the capabilities within there. There's the Education Center, which has over 80,000 learning products and services. There's something like 78 journals and newsletters and more. In fact, if you looked at all the news feeds, I think it's over 200. So really a prominent organization. Can you talk a little bit more about your work with the practitioner board?
Yeah, sure. So when I think since last year, I have started working with the ACM Practitioner Board, mainly Jan. I connected with Jan, who is one of the key role person that part of the ACM Practitioner Board. One of the reasons my main involvement with the ACM Practitioner Board is because it's just like an intersection between how you mentioned about the research industry and professional practice. But, the kind of responsibilities that are specialized in, here, because we are trying to bridge the gap between the professional backgrounds to the educational system. And it's more of like conducting the workshops at various places and making sure that we also bring up some value and showing like how much even if you think like there are various publishing mediums, ACM has one of those prominent position in this current industry. Like if something is getting reviewed and published in ACM means it has high value. So I believe in that, and also I'm also a part of active reviewer for that. So it's like people need to know like how much industry ACM is trying to build with, and how much real world research and implementation that it is bringing through. The practitioner community plays a major role in bridging that gap. So we find it most rewarding to this opportunity because we engage with professionals with various diverse industries and backgrounds who are focused on emerging ideas into practical solutions, which we can also take a good impact. It's just not about discussing the trends. It's about, I would say, like more of innovations that are responsibly adopted and scaled. The focus is more of continuous learning, and it's more of like how we connect different generation of technologists, students, researchers, early career professionals, and experienced practitioners. They bring unique perspectives in here. Because of those ideas that come together, that has to be constructively put in together. And for me personally, the practitioner board is having that broader conversation about the future of technology, not just what we can build, but how we build it responsibly, just like how we have been talking and highlighting since the starting of the conversation, how we ensure create positive and lasting impact of this technology world. So this is more of in high level. That's what I was trying to mention. ACM Practitioner Board just plays a major role in bridging the gap between them, and we do various activities underlying it, like conducting the workshops, connecting with various entrepreneurs to providing the opportunities as well, So we do podcast as well, like that is another series, but yeah, that also giving more opportunity about it's more of like what kind of practices that can enhance the ACM in a broader way that can create its existence to the broader perspective. It's more of that.
So this is the last question, and it's kind of two parts. What recommendations do you want to leave the audience? And two, what questions you want to give to the audience that they can ponder?
Yes. So it's more of like keep your curiosity active. That's what I would say, and keep learning, because learning doesn't have any limitation, and everything is new. Unless we try and learn, we cannot talk on that. So it's more of like do learn more than reading the insights, and more than anything, try to dig more, try to understand. Yeah, like. How much ever you get it, you imply, and you try to give back to the society as well, just like kind of mentorship and guidance. There are many young professionals who are not having that understanding, not having that networking, understand how the role of networking is also plays major role in the current society. So I think that kind of networking would be essential in everyone's career. And yeah, I would say like continuous learning is much important. If you are working in an organization, if you're trying to build on something with AI, like try to think like what kind of problems that your association needs majorly, like what is the problem solving thing? Like there are some problems that your corporation is facing, but if you're trying to resolve something else and if it is not beneficial to your corporation, then there is no point of doing something like that. So try to bring value to your corporation means then find a solution, identify a problem, work on the solution, then provide that solution if you are able to. So that's what I would say. It's more of like it's every day the knowledge is increasing, the knowledge base is increasing. So it's accessible everywhere. There are many influencers, many bloggers that they are sharing knowledge on various mediums. LinkedIn is one of that where everybody is posting, everybody is creating. And at curiosity remains one of the most valuable skill that we can develop, So I would say like learning should never stop. That's what, invest in relationships and communities like these, ACM, IEEE, believe in these kind of communities, how they can bring value and how you can bring value to them. Welcome to the communities, we would definitely welcome. So I would say like, try to explore what kind of communities would add value. Yeah.
And is there any questions you want to leave the audience, like questions they should be asking?
They can come up with questions. I don't have any specific in mind right now, but it's like,
So again, Anusha, thank you for coming in and sharing your deep wisdom, your marvelous and wonderful career, and continuing so many really deep, thoughtful insights to help and inspire the audience in paths that they should take on to succeed, and also to have the resilience and the agility and the capabilities to prosper in this space going forward. So thank you again for coming in and sharing so much from your experiences.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I know that how much this time is very valuable to you as well. And giving me these opportunities itself a great thing to me right now. And I would love to connect with people, like if they try to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and like I'm available on ADP as well. So, keep your curiosity remain active.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.